This class is a memory of Jared Orchen, and today we're going to learn Parshat Emor on page 321. This Parsha speaks about the Jewish holidays. The second half of the Parsha speaks about all the Jewish holidays. It speaks about Shabbat first, then about Pesach, counting of the Emor, Shavuos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, all of this. But to understand what's going on with the holidays, we need to understand how we decide when is the holidays. We should start. Okay. To decide where the holidays are by the Jewish calendar. Shabbat is the seventh day from after the creation of the world. Basically, God decided when Shabbat is. God created the world on day 1, 2, the 7th day he rested. Since then we are counting 6 days and we're resting on the 7th. Simple.
Maybe kind of a dumb question, but how did they figure out when was the first day, the first time?
Adam and Eve was on Friday, right? He was born Friday afternoon, the first Shabbat. Then was the second Shabbat. Then was the third Shabbat.
So it has to start in the very beginning then to determine when the first day of the week was?
Probably. Probably.
Were they born like kids or adults?
They were born like adults. Then, but holidays is dependent on the Jewish calendar. Pesach, the Torah tells us, is the 15th of the month, right? The month of Nisan. Yom Kippur is the 10th of the month of Tishrei. How I know when is the 15th of the month of Nisan? I need to know when is the beginning of Nisan. The Jewish calendar is a mitzvah to have a calendar and to count months started when the Jews, before they left Egypt. God told them the month of Nisan, the month of Pesach, should be for you the first month in the Jewish calendar. Until then, the Jewish people did not have an obligation to count month. What does this mean? And every year, how many days are in a year?
365 and a quarter.
365 days. A full cycle of the sun. Month, in essence, you can live and have a calendar of days. You don't need months. Today is day 53 of the year. Today is day 213 of the year. Today is 300 day of the year. You don't need months. It would be very nice. You can live a good life without months altogether. Came God and said in the Torah that I want you to count months. What means to count months? To count the cycle of the moon. In a year, there are 12 cycles of the moon. Now, how many days is a cycle of the moon?
29 and a half.
29 and a half. Then if you want to put 12 cycles, 12 months in a year, 29 and a half times 12 is
354?
354 days. That's a full cycle. Then God said to the Jewish people, I want you, when it's coming the beginning of the month, you should pronounce it as a special day. It's a holy day, Rosh Chodesh. That's what Rosh Chodesh is. Rosh Chodesh means the end of the month. Like Rosh Hashanah, the end of the year. Rosh Hashanah, the end of the year. Rosh Chodesh means the end of the month. And you count days of the month. That's the month. You start another month and another month. But we have 12 months. In the Torah, the months do not have names. They have numbers. The first month is the month of Pesach. The second month is the month that we are going to start Thursday, actually. The third month is the month of Shavuos. The 7th month is the month of Pesach. Then we have 12 months. What the problem with this? The problem with this is that there is a discrepancy between 12 months, that's only 354 days, and a full year, the cycle of the sun, that's 365 days. Now there is a Christian calendar, there is a Muslim calendar, and there is a Jewish calendar. The Christian calendar is a secular calendar that we use today. It goes by the year. 365 days is a year, finished. The month they divided has nothing to do with the moon. Because there cannot be a month of 28 days, because the cycle of the moon is 29 and a half. You can make a month of 29 days, but not on. Basically, a month can be or 29 days or 30 days. There is no month of 28 days. There is no month of 31 days. No such thing. Then it's just arbitrary. Just divide it into 12 pieces, kind of going by the moon, but not really. That's the month, that's the Christian calendar. Then there is the Muslim calendar. The Muslim calendar is just the opposite. It's a calendar that goes only by the moon. The Christian goes only by the sun, the Muslim goes only by the moon. What means it goes by the moon? 12 moons is a year. Then every year in the Muslim calendar is 12 moons, 354 days. After 33 years, they are losing a year. When a Muslim says, I'm 34, in the Christian calendar is 33. When he's 60, he says he's 68, he's really 66. Then some people will discover that they are younger. Here comes the Jewish calendar, the complicated calendar, or on the other hand, the complete calendar. On one end, a year we go by 365 days. A year is 365 days. Still we want to go by the month. Still the holidays, the calendar goes by the month. And therefore, how we combine these two things? The week goes by the year, basically. Every 7 days is a week. It has nothing to do with the month. But the month, God wants us to make the holidays by the Jewish month. By the month. What means by the month? For example, he said that Pesach has to be in the spring. Spring seasons is dependent by the year, right? On one end, Pesach has to be the 15th of the month of Nisan. Goes by the moon. On the other end, it must be by the spring. How these two can go together? If I go only by the month, this year, I finish the year after 355 days, 54 days, there is 12 months, right? That means this year Pesach will be, let's say Pesach is April 1st. Next year, Pesach will be March 19, 365 days, right?
So late.
If you lose, in a regular year, if you lose 11 days, it's 11 days earlier. A year later, Pesach will become earlier, another 11 days earlier. A year later, Pesach will become earlier, another 11 days. Then the holiday will constantly move, like the Ramadan is constantly moving. The Ramadan is in the summer, then a year later is 11 days earlier, and earlier, because it goes every 12 months, constantly changing. But the Torah says that it must be in the spring. Then Pesach must be in the spring. Therefore, every year, when Pesach gets too early, we add another month. And that's the leap year, like this year. Because if not for this year, if not for this leap month that we had, the second Adar, when would be Pesach this year? Pesach was what? April 14th. It would be March 14th. It would be before the equinox, before the beginning of the spring. Because of this, we add another month. Then we constantly, on one end we go by the months, but on the other end we adjust the holidays to the sun. Because the holidays are seasonal, are dependent on the seasons. And the spring you should have Pesach. And on Shavuos is the holiday of the harvest, of the Chag HaKatzir. Chag HaKatzir is of the cutting, of the raping, of the cutting the wheat. And then in the harvest is the Sukkot. Then it's agricultural, dependent on the agricultural year. It depends on the season. The season depends on the sun, not on the moon. Then the Jewish people, on one end, count 12 months, on the other end, constantly adjusting it by the sun, the calendar. Then when every 2 or 3 years, we add a full month to the calendar. That's what we do.
Out of curiosity, there were a couple of fringe Jewish groups who used a purely solar calendar. Is that possible to use
It's written in the
and be
Bible.
consistent with the Bible?
No, in the Bible it's written that you should have Pesach on the 15th of the month of Nisan. I mean, a month, the word month cannot go only by a solar calendar.
I guess you could reassign the date and just say, the 15th day of the month of Nisan is whatever day you say it is.
But then it's not month.
Yeah.
A month means by the moon.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how these groups had a purely solar calendar if they were trying to keep what the Bible said.
Where did you hear of this? Ancient times?
No, this is the Essenes, the Dead Sea Scroll people. Apparently, there's some archaeological records they kept a solar calendar. I'm just wondering how they managed to do that.
I just don't understand how they went behind the idea of a chodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodeshim. This month should be a beginning of the month. There is a special prayer for the new moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a blessing and everything. We are going by the moon. Now, how they used to establish the new moon? Because it's 29 and a half days. Then 29 and a half days, it means after 29 and a half days, they have to wait to see when the new moon will be seen. Sometimes it's seen by the end of the 29th day. It means that the 30th day is the first day of the new month. Then the past month was only 29 days. Sometimes if you don't see the new moon, automatically the 31st day is the beginning of the new month. We don't have to look for the moon, no matter what. If it's not seen by the 30th day, then the past month is a month of 30 days. And I know for sure that the next day starts a new month because I know that the cycle is not more than 29 and a half days.
So why would you have to look at the moon every month? Wouldn't you just have to verify the moon one day in the year for Pesach and then calculate 29 and a half days, 29 and a half days?
Because
days?
no, even not because, first of all, let's say it's Pesach, then the next Rosh Hashanah depends if the new moon showed up after 29 and a half day, after 29 days, so to speak, in the 30th day, then the next month starts a day earlier.
So you don't know in any particular month which day it's going to be on either
No.
side?
Even if you know, even if you can calculate it, you must see it.
I guess the question would be, why would you have to see it if you could calculate it?
Because it's written that the law is that you have to sanctify the new month early. You must only if you saw the moon. If you didn't see the moon, you cannot pronounce a new month.
What if it's cloudy?
Then you don't see it. That you wait another day, and it will be a full month of 30 days, and then you start a new month.
So how did the priests do it before the rabbis? Do we know?
What do you mean the priest before the rabbis? It was always the Beit Din in Jerusalem announced it in the beginning also. They looked on the moon. They didn't know that calculation takes advantage, takes scholars. The simple way was to look out, to see a new moon, Rosh Chodesh. That's it.
Let's go back to the desert or the first temple or what have you. Pre-rabbis, any institution.
There were rabbis, pre-rabbis too. You understand?
Moses, I think so.
Moses was a nice rabbi before the rabbi's time. You understand?
But weren't the priests kind of in charge of doing that
Sure,
stuff then?
I'm sure they were in charge of it. Yes, they were in charge of all the scholarship, of all learning, of all teaching. They were in charge of this too. And
You said something about the moon, and if you don't see it, then it would be 30.
automatically,
You said something about 31.
the number 31, so to speak, will be the first day of the new second month.
That's a regular solar.
No,
31
not
days.
number. There is not 31. I said the day after the 30th day would be the first of the new month. Clear? You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
There could be, or a month could be only 29 days or 30 days, not 31. I just said the number 30. The 31st day will be the first day of the new month, no matter what. It can never be a month of 31 days. That's what I'm saying. It could be only 29 or 30. Now, that was every month. Then whenever they saw that witnesses who saw the new moon, they came to Beit Din and they announced Rosh Chodesh. Then tonight starts Rosh Chodesh actually, right? They announced Rosh Chodesh, a new month. How can everybody else know about it in Jerusalem? People say, okay, 5 people know that's Rosh Chodesh. How will the rest of the world know Rosh Chodesh? They used to have a system, an amazing system. They used to on the mountain, they used to get up on the highest mountain not far from Jerusalem and light a fire. And people were awaiting the day. They knew that might be a fire tonight. They didn't wait 3 days before, they didn't wait 3 days later. They knew, they calculated from 29 days from the last month, maybe today's Rosh Chodesh. They saw the fire, they were lighting a fire. The next community, and the next community, all the way to Babylon. In a few hours, the whole thing was in flames, if you want.
Reminds me of the Indians.
Yeah.
They still do it.
Until came a time, the Samaritans, Sadducees, all the troublemakers who start to light fires even when the Beit Din did not announce the new month, just to confuse people. Then the Jewish people, they came up with a new system. They couldn't use it anymore because people got confused. Why it's so important if they made the day earlier or day later? Let's say it's the month of Nisan. If today is Rosh Chodesh, 15 days from today is Pesach, because Pesach is the 15th of the month. If tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, 15 days from tomorrow is Pesach. Then I might do the Pesach a day early, a day too early. Then it's not Pesach. Because who decides when Pesach? The rabbis who decided when the beginning, the Beit Din who decided when the beginning of the month. Means God gave the Jewish people the power to decide when is the Jewish month. When is the Jewish holiday, not only when the Jewish month. When is Yom Kippur? When is Rosh Hashanah is up to the Beit Din. Not to when the 7th day of the week is up to Hashem, so to speak. God created the world, from this day we count 7 days. When is Rosh Chodesh, when is the Pesach, when is Shavuos, when is Sukkot, is up to the Jewish people, to human beings. And that's an amazing thing that God gave to the Jewish people. What's a holiday? A holiday means a time that we spend time with God. A vacation, if you want. In England, they call the vacations, they call holidays. South Africa. Holiday means a vacation with God. Who is in charge on your calendar? Who decides when you're going on vacation? Your wife. God and the Jewish people, we are the wife, God is the husband. That He gave us the calendar, we should decide when the holidays are. Not only we decide when the holidays are, the Medrash puts it in such a way, then God is asking His heavenly court, let's find out if the court in Jerusalem, when they decided when Rosh Hashanah is, and I will sit on the chair of judgment and I will judge the people. When is He going to judge the people? When the Jewish people decide that Rosh Hashanah is. And this is in short what's going on with the Jewish calendar. It's on one end, what happened? The fires were not sufficient anymore. That they said they will send out messengers to the Jewish communities to let them know when is Rosh Chodesh. They will know when Pesach is. That today they announce Rosh Chodesh. Okay, the messengers are ready on the horses. They're flying out to all the Jewish community to tell them when Rosh Chodesh is. And to know when Pesach is. Pesach is the 15th of the month, right? How far can you get with a horse in 15 days? And there is Shabbos and there is this. How can you go? Not too
Not to
far.
Babylon.
Not to Babylon, right? Then what should do the Jews? What should do the Jew in Babylon who is sitting there and he doesn't know when Rosh Chodesh is, and there is no telephone, no cell phones, no faxes, no nothing, go nicht.
Pigeons.
Pigeons. It was before the days of pigeons, probably. Then the answer is, because they were not sure what the day is, Rosh Chodesh could be, it's always only 1 day question. If it's the 29th date, or the 30th, or if the 30th day is the first of the new month, or the 31st day is the first of the new month. Then they started to have 2-day Yontif, because they were not sure when is the 15th of the month. Is today the 15th of the month, or tomorrow is the 15th of the month? That's how came 2 days Yontif to the world, because they didn't know when Rosh Chodesh is.
You
So
mean
these-
like first and second Seder?
Yes, that's why there is a first and a
So
second
technically,
Seder.
we could have first Seder and it's really not Passover.
Is it
In the olden days,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because you don't know.
Right, right,
Because
Is it-
you don't know what happens in Jerusalem.
right.
is in Israel it's one Seder?
That's why in Israel, it was in that time, the messengers could come to every community, that they knew when the 15th of the month is, that they had only one day Yontif, one Seder. Everywhere in diaspora, they couldn't reach. Now, in essence, there were places that they could reach in 15 days, like Egypt, like Lebanon, could reach in 15 days. That in these days, they did only one day. That not everywhere in diaspora they did 2 days. Most of the places. After the time, then came the time when the rabbis established a calendar. Now there is a calendar. We don't go out, and nobody in Jerusalem looks on the moon and pronounce it Rosh Chodesh. Now we know 100 years from now when it will be Pesach, right?
When did they establish that? During the second, post-second
No,
temple?
post-second temple.
Like
Post-second temple.
300?
Time of
roughly?
Shmuel, yeah.
Okay.
Shmuel, that was a maven, he was in Yachino, he was called. He understands the moon. He established the calendar. Then they established the calendar. Then the problem basically is solved. No more 2 days Yontef, right?
Yeah.
You already know when
If you were
Yontif.
married, you still got a problem. You got to go to your mother-in-law's. You got to go to this one. You got to have 2 days.
You're right. In Israel, it's always a fight. This year, where we're going to? Her parents or his parents? In America, thank God, at least this fight is not there. One night you go to your parents, one night you go to their parents.
Peace in the home, right? That's
Exactly, that's a big thing. That the rabbis send a message to the people in the diaspora. Continue your tradition to have 2 days Yontif. Even now that we know for sure when is Pesach, and when is Sukkot, and when is Rosh Hashanah, continue 2 days Yontif. Why? Traditions. Minag avoteichem b'yadeichem. Continue your parents' traditions.
But not in Israel.
Because it was never a tradition in Israel. What does this mean, keep your parents' tradition? It's a very powerful statement. The 8-day Pesach is in Israel, a regular day. If it's a regular day, we have to put on film, right? Putting on film is a biblical mitzvah. That the rabbis were overriding the mitzvah, so to speak, of putting on film just to continue the traditions. Because the rabbi said if it was for so many years that God made it in such a way that the Jewish people should have 2 days Yontef, in Judaism you never go back. If you started something, you continue it. And there is many examples for it. One example is the Haftorah, for example. How it started the Haftorah? The Haftorah started because in the time of the Romans, they banned studying the 5 books of Moses. A strange thing, they didn't ban the prophets, they didn't ban the scriptures, only the 5 books of Moses, because that was the book of the law.
Didn't it go back to the Greeks with that time?
The Greeks,
Okay.
the Greeks. Then the rabbis at that time looked for pieces in the Haftorah, pieces in the prophets who are connected, who are speaking on the same concept that speaks in the Parsha of the week. Like this Parsha, Emor speaks about the Kohanes, the whole first half of the Parsha. The Haftorah speaks about the job and of the Kohanes, what they have to do. And the same thing, for example, when the Torah speaks about the story of the spies, that Moses sent spies to the 12 to Israel, to spy Israel, the Haftorah is about Joshua sending 2 spies to spy the land of Israel. Now, the same thing. Then the Greeks are gone and done. The decree is illuminated. We can read the regular parsha. We didn't say, now we don't need the Haftorahs. Gone, done. We have the parsha. We have the original. If God made it, the Jewish people should have Haftorahs. That because He removed from us the Tzores, we'll stop doing it. We'll go back. The same thing is this idea. In Judaism, you never go back. You always add. You don't go. You don't retract. 2 day Yontef is even more than 1 day Yontef. It should have started because he didn't know. But in essence, there is a higher spiritual level there. That's why the rabbi said, don't go back. Now there is a story in the Talmud about 1 year, was in the time of Rabbi Gamliel. 2 witnesses and came and said that the beginning of the month of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, they saw a new moon. And the other rabbi said it's impossible that they saw a new moon. It's calculatively, it's not true, it cannot be. But Rabbi Gamliel, the leader of the Jewish people at that time, accepted it and pronounced Rosh Chodesh. That means if today is Rosh Hashanah, 10 days from today is Yom Kippur. But Rabbi Yeshua was the second in command of Rabbi Gamliel. Didn't agree with it. They said it's not Rosh Chodesh today, it's not Rosh Hashanah, then it's 11 days from now is Yom Kippur. The Rabbi Gamliel says 10 days from today is Yom Kippur. He says, no, I have my own Yom Kippur. Can you imagine what it would be? One shul is fasting on Wednesday, the other shul is fasting on Thursday. In Jerusalem alone. Rabbi Gamliel was the boss. He said, you better come. I think Rabbi Yeshua lived in Yavne. Told him, you come from your city to me on Yom Kippur with your wallet, on your Yom Kippur, with your wallet, on your horse, with your staff, like a regular day, to show that you don't observe your Yom Kippur, that you don't have your own Yom Kippur, you observe Yom Kippur, whatever I decide. Obviously, he was very depressed. I mean, he didn't mind to fast 2 days, but he believed it's Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, and he knows for sure that this is not true. Rabbi Akiva was a young student at that time. Rabbi Akiva came to him and told him, Rabbi, I want to tell you something. And this comes from the Parsha of this week. He says, it's written in the Parsha of this week. We are going now, let's start to read it. Chapter 23, number 1.
And I spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Bnei Yisrael, and say to them, the appointed times of Adonai, which you shall proclaim them as holy assemblies.
Oh, that he came and he told them, it's written here, what you shall proclaim them as your holy assemblies. You have to proclaim them. That means it's up to the Jewish people to proclaim the Jewish holidays. And he said, even if they make a mistake, even if they are purposely doing them, changing it for whatever reason, the bottom line is, he told them, God gave the Jewish people the power to decide the date of the holidays. And he says you have no reason to be upset about it.
Is this one of the reasons why Rabban Gamliel got excommunicated?
Yes, later, yeah.
But
It's a whole other story, yes.
he was taking the authority himself rather than letting the majority decide here?
That was not the problem so much as executing his power over Rabbi Yeshua.
Embarrassed him.
Then the first time they didn't say anything because he was right, you understand? Then after Rabbi Akiva told them that, he comforted Rabbi Yeshua. Basically, he shouldn't feel like he's violating the holiday. He told them because ultimately it's up to the Beit Din in Jerusalem. It doesn't make a difference when was the moon in essence. Munahin, munaher. It's when the rabbis decide. God empowered the rabbis to decide when the holiday is. Then you have nothing to worry about. That was Rabbi Akiva's brilliantness. He was put in the word of the Bible. It was an amazing breakthrough how to look at the whole thing. And he celebrated. He actually, Rabbi Yeshua actually came on his own Yom Kippur, so to speak. He came to Rabbi Gamliel with his wallet, and Rabbi Gamliel got up and he kissed him and he told him, "You are my student and by listening to me, but you're my rabbi by your behavior. I'm impressed by your behavior." That's why on Shabbat is how we say the Kiddush. Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh HaShabbat, right? The one who sanctified the Shabbos. Who is sanctifying the Shabbos? Hashem. Because the 6 days, God created all 6 days. Then how we finish the Kiddush of the holidays? Who remembers? Mekadesh Israel ve'azmanim. Sanctifies Israel and the times and the holidays. The rabbi says like this. The rabbi explains like this. He sanctifies Israel, and Israel sanctifies the times. He empowers the Jews to sanctify the times. That's why the Kiddush is different by Yom Tov than by Shabbos. because Yontef is up to us, so to speak. God gave us the power to decide when Yontef is. And that's what the whole calendar is all about. And that's what we decide when Pesach is, in essence. The calendar was decided by human being too, not by God. Somebody set up a system. And really, it's not always going perfect with the sun and the moon and with the moon. Some Rosh Chodesh are not exactly. If you go outside and look for the new moon or Rosh Chodesh, not every time you're going to find a new moon. Mm-hmm. Depends on the year. Depends how the system. I think now it's more adjusted this year, I think. But there is sometimes you see it a day later or a day later. Because it's 29.5 days, that's also why there is every month, 1 month is 2 days Rosh Chodesh, 1 month is 1 day Rosh Chodesh. Because 1 month is only 29 days, 1 month is 30 days, 1 month is 29. Then it's actually now Jewish calendar, some months are 30 days, some months are only 29 days. This month, the month of Nisan is 30 days. There is Lamed Nisan, the 30th day in the month of Nisan. And the next day will be the first, Thursday will be the first of Iyar. The month of Iyar is only 1 day Rosh Chodesh, it was only 29 days. And after 29 days, right away starts the month of Sivan.
So even our months aren't exactly mathematical
Because
months.
you cannot have 29.5 days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You cannot have a month by hours. You must have a month of days. Rosh Hashanah is 2 days even in Israel. Why is Rosh Hashanah 2 days in Israel? What's changed Rosh Hashanah than any other holiday? Every other holiday, Pesach, Sukkot, is only 1 day in Israel, 2 days in diaspora. Why this is in Israel 2 days? What do you think?
I never knew that.
Rosh Hashanah is 2 days in Israel.
Has to do with the
Just like here. Rosh Hashanah is the first of the month, right? Now let's say they didn't see a new moon. 4 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, the next day, somebody shows up and said, I saw a new moon! That means Rosh Hashanah started last night. And it's too late. You didn't make Kiddush, you didn't eat dip the apple and honey, you didn't do anything. Then because you might end up in the middle of the day discovering that Rosh Hashanah started last night, they started Rosh Hashanah no matter what, if they saw the new moon or not, they always started a day before just in case. That's why any other holiday is the 15th of the month. We have time to figure this out. Whenever will be. It's 15 days from now. No Rosh, 10 days from now. But this is a must. If you might miss Rosh Hashanah, if Rosh Hashanah is only 1 day, and you discover that 11 o'clock in the morning, Rosh Hashanah is over. Hey, Rosh Hashanah, too late. Oh, this year we didn't have Rosh Hashanah. What should we do?
What about the Shabbat?
No blowing the Hashanah. That's exactly. Therefore, they had 2 days, no matter what. They have Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur is the only holiday we have also only 1 day, even in diaspora, right?
Yeah, fast 2 days.
Because he can't fast 2 days. There is a Talmudic story about a man, a messenger who arrived from Israel, I think to Babylon, and the rabbis were there fasting, and they were about to break the fast. And he showed up and he said, tomorrow is Yom Kippur! And the rabbi who was fasting told them, my blood is a new red. He told them, so to speak, if something will happen to me, is a new red. Who asked you to run into? Then at that time, when things were not clear, if somebody comes and tells you, yesterday and I'm coming from Israel now, and I'm telling you that Yom Kippur is tomorrow, not today, you were almost fasting, finishing the fast the whole day. My father had a similar experience. I mentioned it on Shabbos. Then he was in Russia. He was in jail in the 1950s because he and a group of yeshiva students tried to escape from Russia and to smuggle out of the borders. They were caught. They were sentenced to 25 years in a prison in Siberia for harsh labor. And the only way to know when Pesach is, they didn't have a Jewish calendar. That he was from cards, from letters, from home. They used to send them, right? And when is the holidays? And he couldn't write openly because then they will not get the letters. They had to write in a round and about way when the dates of the holidays are. My father started to count a day early. 1 year he started the holiday a day earlier. And what means for my father starting a day earlier? He didn't eat chometz. The only food that you give to give in jail is to give you bread and soup. The soup was not kosher. He didn't eat it a whole year. And he used to give the soup, exchange the soup with sugar cubes. And that he collected all the sugar cubes and he kept it for Pesach. And on Pesach he used to survive on sugar and water. 8 days. And he started a day earlier and he finished the holiday a day earlier. That was the last year before he came out from jail. And then when he came out from jail and discovered that was a day that 6 years later when he told the story he had tears in his eyes that he was eating chometz, God forbid, on the last day of Pesach, after having his own Pesach for 8 days. And that could happen when that's how important the calendar is. But that's why Yom Kippur he had a similar story with this rabbi who had Yom Kippur who fasted for 2 days. Because he heard that he could not fast another day. That's what we have, and that's the Jewish holidays. Now we learn about the holidays from inside.
Can I just make one?
Yeah, please.
Right after I was reading number 3. No, right before it says, "These are my appointed times." Okay, after the whole. So you're saying that the Jewish people make the holidays.
And that becomes God's appointed times.
Is it a holy sanctified day?
Sure. Whatever the Jewish people decide when Pesach is, that becomes the holy day for God. That shows us the power that God empowered the Jewish people. Just like God empowered the Kohen to bless the congregation. Who is a Kohen? Who is he to bless? Blessing, so to speak, comes from God. God blesses the people. A regular guy, he's a nice guy, we have nothing against the Kohens. But who are they to bless me? God empower them that Kohens should get up and bless the congregation. And God says, and I will bless the people because the Kohens give you a blessing. They are my conduit to bless.
Is that a mediator in that sense?
No.
A mediator.
You're
He's a
ju-
mediator.
It's a flow.
I will tell you.
The blessings flows.
that our job, that's all. And we do what
God says.
God said.
Mhm.
So-
They're not mediators.
Right.
Because when a Kohen blesses the Jewish people, that's create the desire of God to bless the Jewish people. And God blesses the Kohens for blessing the Jewish people. Basically, God takes enjoyment when one Jew blesses another Jew. And empower the Kohen to do it. That like empower the Kohen to bless the Jewish people, empower the rabbis to decide when Rosh Chodesh is, and the Jewish holidays are.
It's the partnership between God and human beings.
Exactly, God and the Jewish people. And the same famous story with Rabbi Yeshua, with the older story that he said God empowered the rabbis to make the decision in Jewish law. God is not, even God himself cannot interfere. The whole thing is the Torah was given to human beings and empowered us to make the decision. And whatever the decision we make, that's the will of God. That's the point. But not we, but people who are in charge of Jewish law, and the rabbis of the Talmud. Okay, we are in number 3.
6 days shall work be performed, and on the 7th day in a Shabbos of resting, a holy assembly. You shall not do any work. It is a Shabbos for Adonai, at all your dwelling places.
Then he says, this is the 6 days we should walk. It's an obligation to walk 6 days. As much as that, not as much, but as much there is an obligation to rest on Shabbat, there is an obligation to walk for 6 days. We cannot rest a whole week. We have to walk. Walking is a part of the true partnership with God is to walk, to create something in the world. Now we'll start to speak about the holidays. Number 4.
These are the appointed times of Adonai, the holy assemblies, that you shall proclaim them in their appointed times.
That you should proclaim them again. You should proclaim them on the appointed times. We have the power to do it. Go ahead.
In the first month, Nisan, on the 14th day of the month, in the afternoon, is a Pesach offering for Adonai. On the 15th day of this month is the festival of Matzos for Adonai. For 7 days you shall eat matzos.
Okay, that's what we start on the 14th afternoon. We offer the Passover lamb. Since then, since the moment we offered the Passover lamb, we could not eat chometz. Even before, even the Pesach starts at night. We don't eat chometz from the middle of the day, right? We burn the chometz around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, depends on the year. From then, we're not allowed to eat chometz. Why? Because that was the time that you can start to offer the Passover lamb. Then we have we don't eat chometz for 7.5 days, so to speak. In the diaspora, 8.5 days.
Why were there two holidays here? I mean, we really have two back-to-back holidays, and it's now one.
What do you mean?
Well, the Pesach holiday is technically the 14th of the month, and the Festival of Matzos is the 15th of the month.
No, it says, on the 14th of the month, you offer the Pesach offering, not Pesach holiday. The Passover offering is on the 14th.
Were they ever celebrated as two different holidays?
No,
Turned
it's
into
not even.
It's part
It's
of
not a
Passover.
holiday.
It's not a holiday. It's not a holiday. God says on the 14th of the month you should offer the Pesach.
Mm-hmm.
Just an act of doing something. Not a holiday. The 15th are the holiday. Chag HaMatzot. It's not written Chag HaPesach. You're getting Chag HaPesach, we call it.
Mm-hmm.
God doesn't call it Chag HaPesach. God calls it Chag HaMatzot, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Passover is not the name of the holiday. Passover is the name of the sacrifice. We gave the name Passover. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
On the first day there shall be a day of holy assembly for you. You shall not do any work of labor. You shall bring a fire offering to Adonai on each of 7 days. On the 7th day it is a day of holy assembly. You shall not do any work of labor.
Then on the first day and on the 7th day is Yom Tov. In the intermediate days is Chol HaMoed. Right? Here we have 2 days Yom Tov. Why was the first day? And the first day is the day we came out from Egypt. The 7th day is the day of the splitting of the sea. That's why it's 7 day Yom Tov. It's a full. We came out from Egypt really only on the 7th day. As long as Egypt was in strength and was able to chase the Jewish people, the Jews were not free people because they were running after them to take them back. Only when the Egyptians were in the sea, inside the sea, drowning, only then the Jewish people were free people of their oppressors. Continue. Number 9.
Adonai spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Bnei Israel and say to them, When you come into the land that I give to you, and you reap its harvest, you shall bring an omer of the first fruits of your harvest to the Kohen.
Oh, you should bring a omer of harvest to the Kohen. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He shall wave the omer before Adonai, that it be favorably accepted for you. On the day after the day of rest, Pesach, the Kohen shall wave it. You shall prepare on the day when you wave the omer an unblemished male yearling lamb as a burnt offering to Adonai. It is a meal offering, is 2 tenths of flour mixed with olive oil. It's a fire offering to Adonai of pleasing fragrance.
Isn't there a controversy between the rabbis on the day after the day of rest, Pesach?
Oh.
Was it Shabbat or was it the day after Passover?
Because it's written, you should bring the omer as a wave offering to the temple. What's the omer? Omer was a measurement that was like a pound of flour made out of the barley from the first harvest that they had. And the new you cannot enjoy the barley in your home until we don't bring flour to the temple. 1 pound, 1 omer of flour. Then it's written in the Torah, on the day after the day of rest you should bring it. What's the day after the day of rest? Then the rabbi said, they had a tradition for Moses, it means the day after Pesach, after the first holiday of Pesach. It means the second day of Pesach. Pesach this year was Tuesday. Wednesday would be the time to bring the Omer offering in the temple. The Sadducees said it's written the day after Shabbos.
Right.
That Shabbos always has to be a Sunday. That they said if Tuesday is the first day of Pesach, we're waiting until Shabbos, and after Shabbos, then we bring the flour. And because the rabbis wanted to make sure that Nobody except what the Sadducees say. They made a big event from the Omer sacrifice to make a point that's not the right understanding of the Torah, because tradition, that was the argument. Are we go by tradition or we go by what it's written? And the rabbi said that what it's written is explained by tradition. And if you have a tradition that's stronger than whatever the reason why the Torah writes it, we need an explanation. And there is explanation. But because we have a tradition now, Moses told us what's the meaning of the verse, we go by tradition. On a deeper level, there is a lot to be said about this issue, but on a deeper level, it's really an argument. The 7th day of the week is the nature, right? Cycle of how God created the world. Holidays, Pesach represents a miracle. Do you believe only in nature or you believe in miracles too? That was the argument between the Sadducees and the Pharisees, so to speak, the traditional Jews. But no matter what, that was the tradition, and the Jewish people all knew the tradition, and only us who are sitting around this table are the descendants of people who believed in the tradition, not who believed in the literal meaning. And we once had a whole class about the Sadducees and this thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 14.
Bread, parched grain, or tender grain you shall not eat until this very day, until you bring the offering of your God. It is an everlasting statute for all your generations and all your dwelling places.
Yeah.
Question. So they're talking about things that we technically don't eat during Pesach. Yes, but it's saying that once you offer the Omer, you can eat this, which would be still during Pesach.
Yeah,
yes?
but bread doesn't mean bread.
Well, but what about parched grain or tender grain?
You're talking about.
Because didn't you just say barley?
It was barley, yeah. No, you don't. We cannot make matzahs from barley.
I don't know.
It's one of the grains you can make matzah from.
It is
Sure.
one of the
5
ones
grains.
you
Sure,
can-
sure.
Okay.
You can make
There's a little.
we can make matzah from it. Doesn't mean it has to be chametz. So you can eat it. But in the time of the temple, I told they didn't bring. You couldn't eat from the new harvest. You can eat from last year's barley, from last year's flour, but not from this year.
Okay.
It has to be first given to the temple, then everybody can enjoy it. Then now comes what we are now busy with now, the counting of the Omer.
You shall count for yourselves from the day after the day of rest, Pesach, from the day on which you will bring the Omer wave offering. 7 complete weeks they shall be. Until the day after the 7th week, you shall count 50 days, and you shall bring a new meal offering to Adonai.
Okay. Then on Pesach you brought a wave offering from barley. Now you count 7 weeks. For 50 days he says 7 weeks and he says 50 days. 7 weeks is 49 days, right? The 50th day is the day you bring it. Then you count, including the day that you brought the wave offering, the Omer, you count for 7 weeks, and on the 50th day you bring another Omer offering. Of what? Of wheat. If Pesach was barley, now it's wheat. And that's why we started to count the Omer on Tuesday night. Tuesday night means Wednesday. The 2nd day of Pesach, we started to count the Omer. Yesterday was number 13, right? Mm-hmm. No, number 14. Yesterday was number 14. We've completed just now 2 weeks of the Omer, and we have another 5 weeks waiting for us. That's why when we count the Omer, we count the number of the days and the number of the weeks, because God says to count days and count weeks. 7 weeks, 50 days. That's why when we count, we say, today is the 12th day of the Omer, with 1 week and 5 days. Why we need both of them? Or you can't say 1 week and 5 days, or you can. Because God said to count weeks and to count days. That's why we do it. And on the 50th day, we bring, and that's Shavuos. The Shavuos is 50 days from Pesach. Shavuos is not the 6th in the month of Sivan, it's actually this, but or the 5th in the month of Sivan, 6th of the month of Sivan. Shavuos is 50 days from Pesach. And I count 50 days, now it's everything in the calendar. But in essence, that could happen that Shavuos, the holiday of 50 days, should be a day before the day we receive the Torah or a day after. We'll not get into this confusing business, but that's what it could be.
it's the only holiday we have that's connected to another holiday in terms of
You're
time.
right. You're right. Because Shavuos is the culmination of Pesach. Shavuos, we received the Torah from God, right? Shavuos is, we came out from Egypt, we were taken out from Egypt for a purpose, to receive the Torah, to accept the kingdom of God. If we would not accept, if we wouldn't say Naaseh v'nishma, we will listen and we will do and we will listen, on Shavuos, the whole purpose of Pesach would be, so to speak, how to send us back to Egypt in essence.
Why does the Torah not mention the connection with Mount Sinai? I mean, I understand the agricultural connection. We've got a number of holidays that talk about the agricultural connection, but you would think there would have at least been some hint there in the Torah that we were talking about Sinai at that point.
I think the holiday of Sinai is something the Jewish people need to celebrate. It's our holiday, it's our Yom Tov. You understand? We need to make a holiday of it. God gave us the Torah, we should celebrate. It's not God has to order us to celebrate, so to speak. But we are lucky that it lines up with the holiday that God said there.
I mean, and I appreciate that reason, but I mean, are there some other reasons that you've heard of explaining why that we there is no connection in the Torah at least to Sinai? And
I'll tell you, there is the whole thing is no connection in Torah. There is so many things so I don't have a connection, a clear connection, because the tradition is a part of the Torah, part of the whole thing.
Just counting the 49 days is rectifying your soul to receive the Torah in itself.
That's more the spiritual explanation. And he said that's not written in the Torah. In the Torah, as you're going to read in number 17.
From the land of your dwelling places you shall bring 2 bread wave offering. Of 2 tenths of flour they shall be. You shall bake them leavened, and first fruit offering to Adonai. You shall bring along with the bread 7 unblemished yearling lambs.
You know, we should skip the next 2 verses. We'll go to number 331, number 21. Go ahead.
Yeah. You shall proclaim on this very day. It shall be a day of holy assembly for you. You shall not do any work of labor. It is an everlasting statute in all your dwelling places throughout your generations.
Okay, then the 50th day should be a day of Yom Tov, right? Mm-hmm. The 50th day from counting from Pesach is a day of holiday.
Is that only one day also? But you'll keep
in essence, it would be no. In diaspora, it's 2 days Yom Tov. Shavuos is 2 days Yom Tov. Your good question. Why is it 2 days Yom Tov? But if you don't know when Pesach is, you don't know when Shavuos is. But after 15 days, not all the communities can know. But after 65 days, by now everybody could know. But because we didn't want to differentiate between one holiday and the other, they did it 2 days too. In essence, only Sukkot and Pesach should be 2 days Yom Tov. And Shavuos should be 1 day, because it's 50 days from Pesach. By Shavuos, everybody all over the world should know when Pesach is, when was Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Then it should be 1 day Yom Tov. But because they didn't want to differentiate between Pesach and Shavuos, people will get confused. They say everything is 2 days Yom Tov and finished. That's one. Then now that this is if you want the technical reason, the time of the temple, now that we don't have a temple, why we still celebrate? We celebrate because it's written in Torah. What's the spiritual reason? Because when the Jews left Egypt, they were celebrating. They asked Moses, when is God going to give the Torah? It says in 50 days. They started to count the days. That there is the counting of the days not only because of the Omer, the deeper reason because and it's not just in Judaism. You don't just count days. You prepare yourself. What do you prepare yourself? In Pesach, we bring barley to the temple. And Shavuos, we bring wheat to the temple. Who eats barley? Animals. Not in America. I'm talking normal people. Usually in normal countries, animals eat it. Who eats wheat? Human beings. Everyone in himself has a godly side and an animal side. A human side and an animal side. The animal side, it's barley. And Pesach, we go out from Egypt. We are animals. We are just freed from Egypt. We didn't change ourselves. The animal side of us controls us. When a person loses control, we say he behaves like an animal. You're right. At that time, he was like an animal. 5 minutes later, he gets himself together. He realizes what a stupid behavior he had. He behaves like a human being. That he has the godly side in him. Then the whole process from Pesach to Shavuos is to change our diet from barley to wheat. A little less barley, a little more wheat.
Refined.
To refine ourselves, to become human beings. And when we become a mensch, then we can become godly people. God can give us the Torah. God cannot give the Torah to animals. There is nobody there. Cannot speak to them. They don't get it. You have to turn them into human beings. After you are human beings, you become holy people. In Hebrew, the word holy people, in English, the word holy comes before people. In Hebrew, the word people comes before the word holy. Anshei Kodesh. God says, be people, then holy. Then we are starting as the lowest level, as like animals. Well, a baby is born. He wants everything. Everything, me. We have to teach him to share, to say thank you. He's born selfish. Nothing wrong with that. He didn't do a sin, but that's how he's born. Over the time, we learn to be mentioned, to share a toy, to share a room, to share a life, to share our possession, to share. As we're getting older, we learn more. That's what makes a human being. That's Pesach to Shavuos. It's a journey, a little less barley, a little more wheat. Every day we become a little more human. Hopefully by the 5th, there is 49 steps of the spiritual ladder that we have to claim on the counting of the Omer. By Shavuos, hopefully we'll be deserving God should give us the Torah. That's why we count only 49 days. The 50th level comes from God. But God cannot give you if there is nobody there. You first need human being, then you can be the king.
When did
Then
they
you can
start
give him
counting
something.
the Omer, the Jewish
The
people?
first year that they left Egypt, that's why I just said before, they asked Moses, Reb Moshe, when are we going to receive the Torah? Moses says in 50 days that they started to count the days.
Oh, counting the days was counting the Omer then.
If it was a Omer, no, it was no Omer yet.
That's what I meant.
The Omer was a year later.
It was the year
More than that.
Right.
The Omer, here it's written, when you come to the land of Israel, you have to do the Omer. They were not agricultures. They were not harvesting, they were not sowing, they were not planting, they didn't have anything. The mitzvah of the Omer started 4 years later when they entered the land of Israel. But the concept of counting happened the first year. If the second year of being in the desert they count the Omer, the third year if they count the Omer, I don't know, not necessarily. But the first year when they left Egypt, they count 50 days. The mitzvah is only when you enter the land of Israel. And only when there is a temple. But now we continue to count because, for the spiritual reason, for getting ready for the holiday of Shavuos.